Sorry, my laptop is almost 3 years old, and I bought it secondhand, so a lot of features are just wonky right now. See, that's the other problem with being solo sexual, right? I have to rely on one income to do everything, and that's why I'm using a 5-year-old laptop, which I've upgraded myself. Spent a lot of time with tinkering with the RAM and all of that. I got 64 gigabytes of RAM. That's what's important to me. The camera, sometimes I could care less about that. Getting back to the story, I had never been invited to a wedding. I would so much love to be, though, because I'd love to network with the right people, right? I don't hold romance toward anybody, but I would certainly love to find a life partner to connect with, right? I've lived in other apartments before where I shared the unit with other people, right? I'm living by myself in a studio right now, but it's really far from the campus, right? If I live close by, I probably have to share with somebody. But I had roommates that were adversarial, right? I want that life partner kind of roommate, right? I talked about how in a previous apartment I was grappling with eating disorders at the time. I would be ready to prepare a meal, and all my utensils, my cooking pot would be missing, and it would drive me nuts. I had eating disorders as it was, and my roommates couldn't give a flying fuck about that, right? If this were a life partner, we could actually work it out, right? And so I would so much love to be invited to events where I can network with people more. I've been going to a lot of board game meetups, but even then, you see, part of the problem is that I sometimes don't behave competitively enough, whether it be at the workplace or with networking with people. See, I go to a board game meetup, and one of my opponents, who's very speaking up for himself mentality, we caught him cheating in a game, and I thought that was the funniest thing in the world. Now, keep in mind, this is a board game meetup. I when I heard it, when I heard that one of my friends had caught another friend cheating, I thought they had wagered money or something like that. I just can't imagine somebody going to a board game meetup, nothing at stake, cheating. He wasn't going there with a significant other. In fact, he might even be borderline solo sexual himself. Now that I know him a little bit, but one of my friends said that he caught this other friend cheating at a game of quacks. This is a press your luck, draw from tiles game, and the friend was cheating by peeking into the bag before drawing. And I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I've been trying to egg him on to play quacks because I wanted to see how the cheating went down. Unfortunately, ever since he got caught cheating, he doesn't want to. The other guys don't want to play the game with him. The game doesn't really play well with two players, and in fact, I think the friend who was caught cheating is embarrassed by it, so he doesn't want to play either. I've been telling him, hey, I heard you got a really high score in quacks. I'm programming the AI for that game. Why don't we play so I can see what's going on? And he keeps changing the conversation every time that's brought up. But whatever the situation is, but it's one thing to cheat at quacks. I think he's very assertive, and unfortunately, I sometimes don't behave assertively enough with my friends or people at work, and people walk all over me, right? I have students who can't come to office hours at the time that they're supposed to, and I bend over backwards for them. I have colleagues who have life events, and I bend over backwards to fill in for them. And I sometimes don't, I forget to ask for stuff in return, right? I need to quote unquote cheat a little bit more in those regards, right? And get something, not necessarily cheat, but get something out of it is my point, right? I'm a little bit disheartened. See, I teach at two different colleges now. I took up a second school this semester. I'm very disappointed at a policy that this new school that I'm teaching at has. They allow you to donate your vacation time to a coworker in need. Phoenix College didn't allow you to do that. I just happened to see it, and I was so frustrated. To give you an idea of how frustrated it is, I hate that policy so much that when I was flipping through the employee handbook agreement, the words PTO donation, they weren't in bold or anything. They were the same font as everything else. They stuck out at me because I hate that policy so much, right? It's kind of like if you read some document and there's a threat to kill you or something like that, that would stick out at you, right? Um, the words PTO donation almost highlighted themselves, right? That's how frustrating that concept is. But then I thought about it, and it's not so much that I dislike my colleagues who are taking care of their kids, their aging parents, or taking care of other issues, right? No, I don't have a problem with that. In fact, when we were working remotely, sometimes the kids would get into the background of the Zoom meetings, and that was always beautiful to see. I didn't have a problem with these people taking care of the kids. What I then had a problem with was the lack of reciprocation, right? The fact that these people laugh when I talk about my planned wedding, or they don't invite me to their weddings, or you get the idea, right? It's the lack of that stuff that I dislike. It's not the fact that I have to help them with their kids. I would love to help these people with their kids all day long if I could, right? So I'll have to rethink about that. I oh, the other thing that was really frustrating this past week is that we're getting ready for the holiday season. I was planning out the calendar of our semester, and it was really frustrating how many days we take off for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. Don't get me wrong, I like the concept of giving thanks, but that should happen more or less continuously, right? Not just one moment in the year, right? I appreciate that. Some people like to think about their maker, and apparently Christmas Day is our maker's birthday, right? I appreciate that part of the equation. What I don't necessarily appreciate is I don't really need those days off, right? I'd rather here's some food for thought. I'd rather people take a day off when they want to take a day off, right? Think about all the nonsense that we take off. We just had Labor Day. Don't get me wrong. Labor unions have a purpose, right? Um, I don't know. Some people took September 11th off. Don't get me wrong. I mourn the almost 3,000 people we lost 22 years ago, right? What else? Oh, in a couple days we'll have Yom Kippur. Don't get me wrong. We all need to atone for sins, but not just one day every year, right? And we don't necessarily need to take a day off to atone for our sins, right? It's just really frustrating. I'd rather have the days off when I could actually go somewhere, right? Um, I have extended family members in Taiwan, obviously, and there are some other places that I'd love to travel to, right? We got the Computer Olympiad. I often don't get a chance to travel to them. I do them remotely these days, and then we waste so many days off for these Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays, and all that. Just really frustrating to see. Um, I've got so much sin. I might need a week off. Okay, well, take the week off. I don't have a problem with people taking certain days off that are near and dear to them. I do that sometimes too, right? So, for example, October 24 is Evelina Falenta's birthday. She's the second place winner of Polish Idol season 1, and she sings about romance to herself. And so I like to think of that as almost a solo sexual pride day, right? And sometimes I take it off. Not always, but sometimes I take it off. Now, there is a big difference between celebrating Evelina Falenta's birthday and a Thanksgiving. See, nobody else takes Evelina, the solo sexual pride day off. And so it's easy to go out to your favorite restaurant or do something. Although lately I've been hesitating about eating out lately. The problem is that a couple days ago, there was a daycare where some kid came into contact, like skin contact with of heroin and overdosed. And apparently, a lot of businesses are kind of hiding drugs or something like that. And it makes me really hesitate about eating out. I've been really concerned about there's also been news about fentanyl being hidden in candy, and it makes me really concerned about product tampering. Lately, I've been much more vigilant. Like when I open a bottle of tea when it's brand new, I make sure I hear that cluck cluck. I used to be very casual to stuff like that, but ever since the drug crisis, and now I've been really hesitating about eating out, which is really frustrating. I had promised myself, now that I'm making more money, to eat out more to free up some time for myself, and now I can't even do that in peace anymore. But getting back to the Solo Sexual Pride Day, at least my favorite restaurant's going to be open on days like that, right? I plan to celebrate Mary Curry's birthday on November 7th. Um, and But again, it's a day that not everybody else is going to be taking off, and so I can actually go out and enjoy it, right? All right. So thought I'd spill some ideas out there. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum